Vivienne, thanks for coming on. You've been exhaustive in your campaigning to tackle climate change. It's a big ask. I know you are not frightened of saying it as you believe. So believe me, Vivienne may be provocative this evening. That's also okay. You recently donated £1 million, for example, to a charity devoted to saving the rainforest. Why? And just how urgent do you believe climate change is? And talk to the audience rather than me.
Yeah. Well, every question that has been asked today, every point of view that's been offered today is, can only give some sort of partial idea of anything, because we have one prime problem, and that is climate change. And if we would only see every one of our problems as stemming from this problem, we would have a different attitude to every one of our problems, and we would eventually have a different and a better world. And if we don't do that, then I do believe that we're an endangered species. Now then, as to why we have this blanket, is something I'm not prepared to discuss, but I would, because there isn't time. But apart from that, I would give an example. The cause of climate change is the crazy financial system we have. The world is run out of resources. It's been run for cheap labour. It'd be awfully good if a poor lady in somewhere in the north of England who was really driven mad by the fact that nobody in her family had a job and everybody was sort of desperate. If she could only understand that she's part of the formula, you need those people out of work in order that people can make a profit in this world, because everything's done on paper, but now computers. Anyway, so the proof of what I'm saying is that we have a financial crisis. So I repeat, we have a financial crisis because we are running out of cheap resources. And the symptom of climate change is the financial problem. People always talk about it as if it's the cause, and climate change has never been mentioned. It's the first time it's been mentioned today. And so nobody's dealing with the problem, least of all politicians, because they are clicked in, they're linked to the system. They cling to it. And so therefore, whatever they're doing is totally ineffective. I'd like to give an example of the kind of difference that would be in the world if we would only see things differently.
Go on.
Yeah, I know. You want to interrupt me, I know.
I will.
Anyway,
go on.
In Clapham, where I live, just down the street from there, there are some houses, and one man who lives there is an electrician, and he used to come and fix the electricity in my shop years and years ago in 1970. And so they are being evicted. They've been threatened with eviction. And that is because at one time the houses were first occupied by squatters in the 70s. Since then, they've got a cooperative. They've made the houses really lovely. The street is great. It's got flowers everywhere. And there are lots more people like that around. And but the council wants now to sell their houses. They've tried repeatedly to have some kind of contract where they pay rent or whatever, and the finances are balanced. But the council now decided that they want to sell the property. That's like selling seed corn. What about next year? These people are on the housing list.
So you're talking here about...
If you had an attitude about climate change, you would not be doing that. You wouldn't be trying to fix the short-term computer and ignore the long-term one. You wouldn't be doing that. You would have a different world based on human values.
And that's what I wanted to come to, because you've called yourself a freedom fighter rather than an environmental activist in the past. And as a freedom fighter, I will remind you, just in case you didn't get the message from Vivienne just then, your target has oftentimes been the financial structure of our system. How would, to your mind then, a more values-based society work?
Well, before I answer that, I'm going to say that I have called myself a freedom fighter because I believe we're dangerously short of culture. I think everything's connected, human rights, the fact that we're being trained up to be consumers and nobody even knows what culture is. Culture is consumerism to everybody when you actually analyse it. And I'm saying that every art lover is a freedom fighter for a better world because people are stopping and thinking. And what's more, if you're an art lover, you're investing something. You're investing your personal time in it. It gives you a fantastic anchor in life. You are not consuming. It's not consumption. And I'm just saying that's one way in which I used it, that every time anybody makes a stand, sticks to the tradition, doesn't believe all the dogma that's been going on for the last 200 years. The 20th century was a mistake. It was total crap.
In the session before... Didn't I say you'll get it as it is? In the session before us that you were listening to, we heard about a youthquake rather than an earthquake happening in the world. The phenomenon of people power. I saw that one of you here in the audience tweeted, the power of people is now challenging the people in power, which I know you'd buy into. This has to be positive, given your pessimism about what has gone before, doesn't it? This sense now that people power is making a difference.
I have terrific love and affection and respect for those kids who were doing the Occupy movement. One of them said to Noam Chomsky, should we be working towards revolution, bless him? And Noam Chomsky said, hold on. And what Noam Chomsky was getting at is, make your moves when people are ready for it. It's my job to try to raise awareness for this. It's very, very difficult because you can tell people all kinds of facts that once we go past 2 degrees, you can't stop it. All this stuff, they're not interested. So, yes, it would be really great, but I think there are terrible, as they call it, downside to those things now.
So
I just give you an example from the culture. Like somebody said, you know, well, you must really love the internet. I don't type, I don't have a mobile phone. I've got a blog, I write it in longhand and give it to my assistant. I never have time to look at it. Anyway, and they said, you're a reader and you must really be so pleased because you can get all these books that are out of print and da-da-da. I said, the internet can't read the book for me. You know, I mean, so I don't know, these young people, I think they're very much cut adrift. The great thing about young people is that they're idealistic. They don't have experience. And so I think it's absolutely great that they want to fight for things.
So if we went beyond ourselves with 2 minutes just left to chat, this is a session called Beyond Ourselves. It is about looking to the next generation. It's got to be said that climate change, whilst an incredibly important issue and passionate so far as you are concerned, things go in and out of fashion. So what is your message to a future generation about climate change specifically? Well,
I just have to say that the reason I put my money to the Cool Earth project is because one thing for sure, where do we start? What can one person do? I had some money, and therefore I used this money, and the first thing I thought we had to do was to save the rainforest. Are we aware that pollution from shipping causes 50% of ice melt? There's all kinds of things that people could do, but you can only do one thing at a time. I thought the best thing was to try to do something about stopping the delogging in the rainforest. And there's a charity called Cool Earth, which have calculated that it would cost, of course it might not stay exactly this, but only 114 million pounds, I think it is, to save all 3 major forests because they're working from a bottom-up thing and working with the indigenous people. And the great thing that gives me hope of any kind is that there are thousands and really loads of people, NGOs, charities, individuals trying to do things. We need to link them up. The last people who are going to do anything is government. My idea was to tap into this rainforest project because it's practical and we can just keep it moving so that it doesn't flounder in any way. It keeps on going. But the idea, my next idea was get models involved, ask them for money, make them aspirational people that will get whatever. Yeah, Lil's a mate of mine. and she gave me some money for the project.
Excellent. Well done, Lily.
Yes. and
30 seconds.
And then try to get government to join in to what are practical schemes. The World Bank phoned me up because they have been sitting on £6.5 billion for climate change. They haven't done anything with it because they're still negotiating how to spend it after about 6 or 7 years. You know, so I don't know, there's just so much to be done. And the idea that business can carry on. The man that was an optimist that spoke earlier this morning saying, you know, how there's less poverty now and all these things. Don't you realise this might be the case, but we have reached a pitch where it cannot continue.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
I thank you very much indeed for joining us. I give you Vivienne Westwood.